right, welcome back to All Hitches, Nova's #1 football podcast. We are also the hottest podcast because it's 102 degrees out there, Coach Mason.
And it is hot. I had to get all my work done. I start in the morning. I had to do the yard work. Something else I've gotten into is washing my car. Like I bought the foam thing for my pressure washer. Like I bought all the stuff to make my. What's weird is I've been putting the shine on my tires. So you go to the you go to the car wash and it's like $5 to do it. A full ball of that is like $4.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like I've gotten into like detailing the car, which is nice, like
it
vacuuming.
is nice.
Yeah. So I mean it's a summertime thing, right? Getting out there washing the car.
Yeah, bring out that radio with a little antenna.
I always whenever I think about washing my car though, I always think about Fast Times at Ridgemont High when Judge Ryan
Yes, yes, raised on the radio, baby.
raised on the radio. Yeah.
Yes, sir. God bless Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Can't show it to your kids, but God bless Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
No, but they had I would say one of the more underrated beauties of the 90s that I think we all grew up. Phoebe Cates.
Oh yeah,
Just I mean, yeah.
I think she's still gorgeous now.
Yeah, married to Kevin Kline, right?
Kevin Kline, Fish Called Wanda. He's hilarious.
Wanda. Kevin Kline is a Monty Python, right? Was he in Monty Python's Flying Circus? Wasn't he part of that whole troupe?
He had to have been
Was
because
he? Maybe
in
I'm
Fish
wrong.
Called Wanda, they had a couple of those guys in that movie.
Yeah, I could have sworn he was in.
I feel like you're right.
Were you a Monty Python guy?
Nah, I mean like clips of it, but no, it wasn't one of my go-tos.
Yeah, me either. I felt like, but people who love Monty Python were like into Monty Python, right? Like I remember seeing the one with the Black Knight where he gets every time he fights on a limb he keeps on fighting him and then
Just a flesh wound.
it's a flesh wound. Yeah.
Well, I remember those guys from European Vacation,
Yeah. Oh, European. Oh, that's right. They were in European Vacation.
right?
Well, you're a big fan of European Vacation.
I love all the vacations. They're all great.
That European Vacation was kind of weird. I don't know.
Oh, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Do you know the reason that they changed up the Audrey or the reason they changed up the kids in that?
I've read why before
So
I thought they couldn't get someone the first
Michael
time.
Anthony Hall said no. He
Yes,
said no because the other one who played the original Audrey was ready. She was gonna
yes.
go. She was gonna get ready to do it, and when Michael Anthony Hall said no, they were like, okay,
Let's have fun with this.
we're just gonna flip it out. And that's now it's been the rotating thing, right? They've never had
Right.
over and over again.
Yeah, they're amazing, amazing movie. I love all those movies.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
speaking of amazing, you and I watched the Oakton 7-on-7s last week, and we were amazed by performance by one Mount Vernon, weren't we?
Yeah, they looked really good. And we were just impressed all the way around with them. I mean, they were probably the story of the whole thing, right? I mean, that game against Roosevelt, a team that had been steamrolling everybody,
Right.
all of a sudden was not doing that. I mean, in reality, I think Mount Vernon probably should have won that game, but Roosevelt threw a couple of 50-50 balls up, and they got some dudes, right?
They do. Yes.
I mean the one pick they got towards the end of the game. I mean that kid snatched that ball out of nowhere, where most
Yep.
kids are not taking that football the way he did. But no, they looked amazing, and because of that, we were really impressed with their coach.
Yeah, we got we got talking to Coach Holland at the 7-on-7, and we thought he was really kind of engaging guy.
Yeah. Also, one of the original fans of the show. So I mean, what a smart guy, right?
Yes.
He bought low, right? He bought Amazon when it was only $2 a share, right?
That's right. That's right. He's a man who has good judgment,
Yeah.
right? Good judgment. And yes, we started talking to Coach Holland, and we said, hey, you want to be on the show? And he was like, I'd love to be on the show, and we're making it happen. We said, well, let's talk. Let's do it. And so here we are. We have a great interview for everyone today with Coach Holland. It's gonna be a good interview. First year head coach. I think everyone, whether you're a veteran head coach, whether you're a new head coach, or somewhere in the middle, I think you kind of watch that and you're like, it's always interesting to see how everyone's got their own style and how they kind of, grab the bull by their horns.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We're impressed. I think everyone's going to enjoy the interview.
All right, so let's get into it. Coach Holland from Mount Vernon High School. All right, welcome back And with us now, we got Coach Holland from Mount Vernon. Coach, welcome aboard.
Hey guys, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
man, we're excited. We are
yeah,
excited, Coach.
it's awesome. We talked to you a little bit at the Open 7-on-7, and you had said that you were one of the first people to find us. How did you find us? I'm just curious, like how did that happen?
Man, I'm always, you always got to be on the lookout for Northern Virginia football. Like when you're around Northern Virginia football for a while, you're always eager for new things. When I got here, just like you guys talked about, I was just surprised at the lack of like local newspaper media coverage for the area. And then I don't know, it showed up on my Spotify. And I was like, oh yeah, I gotta check these guys out. I think I'm subscriber number 4 for the record. So I don't know who beat me to it. I think both of you guys wanted to.
Yeah,
Probably
1 and 2 in our wives. There you go. That's look. Mason and I talked, and after we spoke to you at the Open 7-on-7s, and we had talked, on social media and stuff before, but in our opinion, you guys you didn't win the tournament, but you were one of the stories of the tournament. We thought you guys really impressed, not only us, but people we spoke to. You guys were very impressed. We said, hey, we need to get Coach Holland on. We need to talk about kind of his journey to Mount Vernon, and then we can get into kind of Mount Vernon, towards the latter half. So let's talk it up, man. Tell us a little about yourself. You came from, you said we were talking off camera earlier, from Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, I'm from Western Pennsylvania. Went to a small high school in Somerset, Pennsylvania, and I went on to college down at Radford University. And I came out like right in the middle of the recession, 08 and 09. So I did some substitute teaching and some stuff like that for a year. And then I got a job at Stafford. And when I got the job at Stafford, my parents actually met Chad Lewis, who was then the coach at Stafford, and I started coaching. And then once you hear the terms coach, you're either forever hooked or, you're going to burn yourself out within 2-3 years. And for me, I was just forever hooked. So I was a staffer for, 4 years with Chad Lewis. I worked my way up from freshman to JV to varsity. And then I went to Yorktown with Coach Hansen. And I was with him. I was his freshman coach for about 3-4 years. And then I worked my way up to varsity on that staff. Coach Lewis called me up. He said, look, man, I want you to come down here. I want you to help me take the next step. With Edison, we're on the right track. We just need to get over the hump. I said, sure. So I went to Edison High School for the last 3 years. One of the greatest things about my journey is like I have been with Hall of Fame coaches for 15 years. So when it was with Chad, his dad, Von Lewis, is in the VHSL Hall of Fame, and Chad does a great job at Edison and at Stafford. He's always done a great job. And at Yorktown, it was with the legend, Bruce Hansen. And so when you're with those guys and you learn and you work with them on a daily basis, you just learn so much. And so finally, after about 15 years of coaching, I said, you know what, it's time to take the next step and to run my own program if I get the opportunity. And Mount Vernon is just a wonderful place, and it ended up working out.
So you have you always been? My understanding, you've been on the defensive side of the ball at Edison. Have you always been on the defensive side of the ball? I mean, where
I've been on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball, special teams. So one of the really nice things is like Coach Lewis moved me around. So I coached offensive line, I coached wide receivers with him when I was at Stafford. I've coached defensive backs. So I've coached special teams. I've coached basically all these different types of positions. And so one of the things that both of them did, and Coach Hansen did too, is when you want to be a head coach, you go to your current head coach and say, hey, I want to be a head coach. And then when they have a hole in the staff, they say, hey, we're going to move you around. We're going to get you experience at all these different positions so that when you become a head coach, that you have experience coaching these different position groups, because depending on who you can find on your staff and what's available out there, you might have to coach that position. So, you can't be a head coach and not know offensive line. You can't be a head coach and not know wide receivers. You can't be a head coach and not know defensive backs. So these are like different positions that you kind of like, they were very good with me rotating through. So I got to learn a lot and from a lot of great people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's the old hotel management, right? I mean, you want to be the general manager of the hotel, you got to work food and beverage. You got to work front of the house. You got to work back of the house. You got to do it all. You got to be well-rounded by the time you take over the hotel. Once upon a time, I thought about going into the hotel management when I was younger. So, I mean, and that's what that is, man. And you don't see it as much with the young coaches now. A lot of them think that, and that's just what I see. I'm not saying good, bad. Well, I'm indifferent to it, but I see a lot of guys who were longtime receivers coach. They became an OC, and now they're like, all right, I got to be a head coach now. But instead of taking the more traveled route of kind of doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think it's really important, when you're a young coach and you're starting off, you definitely just got to be willing to learn. And you got to be willing to learn like a lot of different things. So there's different things that you don't learn until you become a head coach that I found out in the last couple of months, and then I'll find out in the next couple of months because, that's just something to find out along the journey. But you learn from all the different people you interact with, and then you're part of a tree, right? Like your head coach or the person that you're from, like Coach Hanson's tree right now, it's me, Coach McBride at Woodson, and Coach Hicks all got jobs this year. We're all three from Coach Hanson's tree. But I'm also from Coach Lewis's tree, who Coach Aziz is from, through some other coaches in the southern part of the state are from.
Coach Choates, right? Did you ever work with Coach Choates?
I did not work with Coach Choates. I'm not 100% certain if he's part. I think he's Coach Von Lewis's tree. And
yeah,
so,
I think he was. I think he was Coach Von Lewis.
And so you learn all these different people and you interact with them, and you just try to take in and soak up as much as you can.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I love it. I love the old guard kind of having their trees, and all these guys now kind of going, and I love the new blood coming in too. Like you said earlier, you're naming Yorktown and Woodson and now you, and it's actually been at first people thought it wasn't going to be a huge cycle. Ended up being a pretty big cycle. A lot of new, and what I love about it is a lot of first time coaches. You didn't see a lot of, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's cool that you see a lot of new coaches coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity, but there's also value in having done it before. If you've done it before, and you're a head coach and you're experienced head coach, then you've got a lot of knowledge about how all the little things that I'm finding out, Coach Hicks and Coach McBride are finding out right now, how all that's done. All the behind the scenes stuff, the stuff you don't talk about or you're not able to do until you're the head coach.
Oh, it's the stuff that gives the AD, right, high blood pressure, right?
Yeah, it's the stuff that gives everybody high blood pressure.
Right.
I looked at Coach Lewis. He's like, "You're just finding out now, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, like I'm on the phone with this person or that person for half hour, 45 minutes. A lot of times it has nothing to do with football. A lot of times it's just scheduling or organization or getting this done or getting that done or setting up your fundraiser, whatever it is. But it's all part of the journey. It's been great so far. I mean, it's really a unique experience."
Yeah, I tell people all the time, being a head coach is 20% football, 80% everything else. And to be a head coach, you've got to be able to do the other 80% stuff really well. If it was just X's and O's, I would maybe think about being a head coach again, but I have zero interest in doing. I think I told somebody, I told somebody the other day, I was like, I've sold my last discount card. I never ever want to do that ever again. I have.
You bought your last discount card, have you?
Huh?
You haven't bought your last discount card, have you?
I end up buying one every now and then, but I have sold my last one just because it is just such a huge pain. And having to deal with vendors and having to deal with all the other stuff that and I think people don't understand too. I may get some pushback from other coaches from other sports. I feel like football coaches in particular have to deal with more of the admin and the rest of the school than especially when it comes to homecoming. Homecoming, because it's such a big deal at every school, and you are involved in that whole process. And I don't think people really I don't know if the word is appreciate, but just understand exactly the amount that goes into a football coach and what they have to do just with inside the school.
Yeah, and one thing that makes it a lot easier, and I lucked out. Mount Vernon was going well. I came into a unique situation. Coach Taylor did a great job with them. It was kind of one of those weird things where Coach Taylor just couldn't be the coach anymore. And it wasn't anything from Mount Vernon's side, wasn't anything from his side, just couldn't do it for different reasons. But, I came into an area where the staff was already like a solid staff. Like I have solid members on my staff from the previous coaching staff. And the players were in a good spot too. So, you always got to shout out to people that, set you up in positions. And so my staff currently is doing a great job, and a lot of them with Coach Taylor. And Coach Taylor, did a great job before me. These guys are ready to go and they're excited. And, he laid the groundwork for sure.
So actually, I didn't want to since you brought it up and if you're comfortable talking about it, the way Coach Taylor the coaching change happened.
Mhm.
What was it like walking into that room? Because obviously the kids were expecting to have Coach Taylor be their head coach. He was expecting to be the head coach, and because of the rules of FCPS and how that kind of worked out for him, how was that walking into that situation?
So yeah, sometimes when you walk into situations, you always got to like look around and assess, right? So, when I walked in that situation, I just wanted to take things in. I wanted to go slow. I wanted to see how the guys reacted to me, how I reacted to the guys, and I understood, how they felt, and I understand how the community felt. I understand, how everything sort of worked out with that situation. So I definitely wanted to go in there and not just come in there and, oh, this is how we're going to do things, and everything you do, that's not who I am as a person. And that wasn't going to work out in this situation. So I did a lot of just, kind of listening. Sometimes it's really important to do listening as a head coach, listening to different people, listening to the community, listening to administration. They've got a great administration as well, and sort of feel the vibe out a little bit. And now we're rolling.
Awesome.
Yeah, you seem like a people person, and that's important, and you kind of get it in talking to you, because you're right. There's a lot of guys that would have walked in any building, not just there, but anywhere they get the job, cowboy hat, on, and maybe a straw sticking out, and saying, "All right, there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is not Reggie Hammonds." I mean, you might have seen that. So you coming in there and just being, humble and just trying to build relationships, that goes a long way.
Yeah, and relationships take time. Like you can't trust everything like that. It takes time. It takes time to develop with a team. It takes time to develop with the faculty. It takes time with all that. And one of the things is be who you are. So advice to young coaches and different things is, I got the advice from Coach Lewis and Coach Hanson. They said, be yourself. Whatever personality you have, like if you are the person that comes in there and this is the way we're going to do things, and this is how I know how to win, and hey, this is what we're going to do, then do it. But if that's not your personality, don't do it. Because the one thing that players, coaches, everyone can see through real quick is if you say you're something and you're not, right? Like you have to be the most authentic version of yourself in any of your interactions, in any coaching level or teaching level.
I think you're right. Being true to yourself is key. In anything you do in life, I think you're right.
So, tell us about Mount Vernon. But I'm sure you want to talk about the kids, but just kind of tell us about, about the school, your first impressions, what you think, now being there for a while, kind of give us the brochure of Mount Vernon High School.
I think the first thing that I want to say to everybody is like, we have great kids. That's one of the things that, I just want to say we have great kids. We have great teachers. We have great administration. It's a great place to work. Everyone's been super supportive of me. And when I met the kids, you talk to the kids, they love football. And that's one of the easiest things when you're a coach and your team already wants to win and loves football, then that makes it really, really easy. So in terms of getting a buy-in and going around and saying, hey, would you play? Would you play? Would you play? Yeah, you still have to do that. You have to do that at any school. But the kids at Mount Vernon love to play football. The community of Mount Vernon wants to win football games. This is the thing that they like to do here at Mount Vernon. And the community of Mount Vernon was wonderful as well. I just wanted like the academics, the athletics, the whole vibe at Mount Vernon has been really, really great. And sometimes the schools on the southern end of the county don't get as much respect as I sometimes think that they deserve in terms of, how they fit and who they are and what they represent. And the kids are great. The administration's great. The coaching staff's great. There's no way for me to complain at all. Kids are humble. They want to work. They say, yes, sir. They say, no, sir. We go to work. The administration's been supportive. The academics, the teachers, the stuff like that, that's been going well too. We have smart kids too. Kids are coming up to me talking about their IB classes and their, and all this different kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know this math. This is some math I don't know. And so, people don't think about that when they think about Mount Vernon, but I just want the world to know that is something that Mount Vernon does well too.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I told you earlier, a good friend of mine, Fernando Belli, former AD, DSA at Mount Vernon. You're not lying. He said a lot of the same things you just said. He loved when he was a DSA there. I would always ask him, how is it over there? You enjoying your time? And he loved it. So you're not lying. You're not lying. All right, let's talk a little bit about, coming in. One of the first things I thought about was, and one thing that, one of the themes we've talked about all off season is how hard it is to get coaches. So when you got in there, was it kind of did some staff leave? Did you retain a bunch of people? I mean, it had nothing to do with you, but just when you got there, what were you looking at as far as the cupboard, as far as staff goes?
Right. So I had a couple of coaches that couldn't coach anymore due to time commitments. And so this was one of those unique things. Like, 10, 15 years ago when I started coaching, almost all the coaches were in the building and they were all teachers, right? And that's not the case anymore. That's not the case at any school. So some of the coaches that you just couldn't dedicate, they couldn't be at practice and things like that. I'd say about half the staff stayed and it really helped out with the transition and things like that. Actually, more than half, probably like 60, 70% of them stayed. So
That's huge. That is huge.
Yeah, and then they're good coaches too, and I ask people about them. I know people through people and I ask about this person and that person, and they would give, ringing endorsements about them. So it was really helpful to have that staff. And then it was helpful to have staff in the building. So I have 3 other people in the building besides myself. And it was just crucial for those times because I had to drive from Edison, come to Mount Vernon. So every day, when you're doing the weight room, you're doing your off-season lifting, conditioning, you have to have somebody open the weight room, warm them up until you get there. And so Coach Ben Benitez, who's our offensive coordinator, did a great job with that. Coach Hurt's also in the building. He's helped me out with that. And so having those types of people around and just supporting and sort of supporting you as you transition to the building and, so that you can just get your foot in the door and get rolling for this next school year.
Awesome. So, well, let's go back to the Oakland 7-on-7 a little bit. So let's all transition into it. So we saw you guys were playing Roosevelt and Dash was like, we got to go see that game. And I said, all right, let's go. And it happened to be also Lake Braddock with me. Like it was a really good, 2 good teams were right back to each other. So we go down there. And so Roosevelt had been rolling. They had been rolling through every 7-on-7 I'd been to. And you guys were, I mean, for lack of a better term, you guys were dominating them. I mean, you guys were up probably 2 scores early, and they couldn't do anything against you guys. You guys were looking good. You guys look really good. I mean, I thought skill-wise, you guys were just were on par with anybody else who was in there. And there were some heavy hitters who were at that 7-on-7. So you got there. So talk a little about your kids. I mean, it looks like you got some dudes over there. I mean, and we're big Matthew Moret fans. We're big Matthew Moret fans. We like him a lot.
Little Julian Edelman there. Wes Welker, I like him.
And how he came on the radar for us was we were doing so. Last year we first started like okay, let's start looking through over there. And I was like, because I didn't watch a playoff game that year, and I was like, who's a sophomore who had 140 yards against Braddock in a playoff game as a sophomore? And that Braddock team won the region. Would they win the region too? Yeah, they won the region. And that kid had like 8 catches for like 145 and like 2 touchdowns. So you guys got some guys, but anyways, let me talk about your guys as well. But yeah, I look at you guys look like you guys have some talent this year.
And the big tight end, talk about it. About it.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little backstory about the Roosevelt situation. So we actually played them in the playoffs in Garfield. And they ended up going on to win it all. And so we ended up, only losing to them and Colonial Forge, which are 2 really, really good programs. And we were kind of going back and forth with them at the Garfield. And so when we get to play them again, so one of the best things about Mount Vernon kids is it doesn't matter who lines up against us. Honestly, our kids are ready to play. Our kids are excited to play football. They're not going to be intimidated. They're not going to shy away from playing anybody. And so we ended up playing Roosevelt in that playoff game, and then we came back and played them again. So our kids had some confidence, with some familiarity with them. There was a little bit of back and forth with them, and we sort of knew them a little bit, and they knew us. And I stuck around the tournament at the end of Garfield. I was talking to some of the Roosevelt players, like, just asking about different things and talking to them about Mount Vernon. But our team this year, so we have a lot of seniors, and Coach Hansen told me one thing. He said, sophomores want to play, juniors want to play well, seniors want to win. And we've got a lot of kids that are seniors. So we've got Matthew Moret, obviously, everyone knows about. But we also have Ari Cole, who is going to have probably a big senior year. He was going to have a big junior year last year. kind of got hurt, never really fully got into it, but he's another wide receiver for us. We got CJ Coleman, who's a DB, wide receiver, running back. We're going to move him around. He can play every position. You know, when you come into Mount Vernon, you ask the kids, you know, what position do you play? And they say, we play football. You know, like, put us wherever. We'll play wherever, whatever position. Big tight end, Weed Volsey, you know, he started making some snags and some catches out there that I was like, oh, well, this makes me look smart. You know, just throw it up to the big man.
They always do.
They always do. Yeah. You know, and then we have, you know, some other seniors, Bennett Hardy, Richard Vala, Jabari, Andrew Hernandez, and, you know, we have a lot of seniors. I think I looked at the roster. There's guys I'm not even mentioning. I think I looked at the roster before I even applied for the job, and I think there's something like 24, 25 seniors from last year's team. Yeah, so we have almost every kid you saw out there was a junior or senior. We weren't even bringing many of our sophomore kids, and there's a lot of talented sophomore kids too.
Well, didn't you guys have a lot of sophomores at that?
That's right. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah,
we did.
yeah.
Yeah, so we had those. So we were able to do 2 teams, and you know, I was trying to negotiate because you know you get hired and trying to get 2 teams because I felt like we could put 2 teams together. You know, from skill position, not logistically, and you know all that kind of stuff makes it a little bit more difficult. But we've got those 2 teams in versus Garfield. And you know, our young guys, you know, had a pretty good freshman season. They're coming up through, and our older guys, you know, they're going to show great leadership this year. And we've got a lot of players, man.
Yeah. So how about your bigs? What do you guys have? Because you know we didn't see them at Oakton. Well, so I know you said you have some bigs. Who do you got in the trenches?
Yeah, Andrew Hernandez and Michael Frier. So Mike, you know, when you flip on the Hayfield Mount Vernon tape from last year and you see a kid running down a skill position guy from Hayfield to make a tackle that's a lineman and a sophomore, you say, well, that kid's pretty good. Michael Frier is pretty good. We have another kid, Nick Interini. He you know, I got him out there and he's just a massive man. Like he is a massive man, and he's going to be difficult to move. So we've got some offensive and defensive linemen that are definitely going to be part of it. So we've got, like I said, we got a lot of players. It's just putting it all together.
Now, QB, it's always fun to talk about quarterbacks. Or talk about 7-on-7. We noticed you were kind of shuffling between. There was one guy who played a little bit more, but there were a little bit of shuffling between 2 guys.
We shuffled right now. There's quarterback competition. You know, we're between Lee and Aiden Pearson. You know, so we have 2 different quarterbacks, 2 rising juniors. They both played JV last year, so they're both competing for the varsity spot right now. So that you know, getting a flow and getting a rhythm and all that stuff, and then we'll let that carry out through the scrimmages. You know, you can't make a determination, in my opinion, unless you have a guy coming back that's, you know, the guy. We had a guy really good last year, Hudson Grimsley, who was the guy. But, you know, we have to let that play out through the scrimmages and see them with the shoulder pads on and things like that.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right. And it's good. Healthy competition brings out the best and you know, and all the guys. So I think it's good.
So you've been in the national. How many years were you at Edison? How many?
I was 3 years at Edison.
Okay. So you've been in the national for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me a little about the brand of football in the national. You know, what are some teams that you're like, man, they've got some players over there? Because sometimes I think the national gets overlooked.
Yeah.
You know. So
Coach,
talk about. I mean, I'm sure you can talk about Edison. Talk about other teams that you got in there in the national.
And you know, I think the national district, you know, people do a great job. I mean, you have different levels of competition. You have different athletes that come out, but like the people in the national district, the coach in the national district, are doing the best that they can with what they got. And I know the national district is looking forward to playing and competing against some of the other districts this upcoming year and sort of proving, you know, our brand of football and, you know, what we can do. So Coach Coogan at Falls Church, you know, I saw his guys out there. You know, they definitely look really good. Coach Jotes at Lewis does a good job. Coach Baggett over at Annandale does a good job. Coach Lewis at Edison obviously does a good job. It came from there. So all the teams in the national district, you know, one of the things that makes it unique is it's kind of, you know, if you've got a good player, you know, you've got a good player. And sometimes our good players get a little overlooked, like Annandale's running back last year. I don't know his name, number 8. He He was really good. I mean, nobody really talks about him, but you know, in terms of an individual player, he was a really good football player. Falls Church quarterback, number 7, I think his number is. You know, he plays quarterback and outside linebacker. He's on the field the whole time. He does a really good job over there too. And so, you know, when you have, you know, the kind of national district football, sometimes you got to play players both ways, and you know, you just have to go with what you got. And so those teams, you know, a lot of times you get guys competing when they're younger, like Matthew Moret, for example. I believe he's a 4-year starter. You know, like 4 years. So, you know, you start every year. CJ Coleman is rising junior he's going to be a 3-year starter. So some of the teams in the National District, you had to play your young guys earlier than maybe you might at Lake Braddock or Fairfax, because, you know, you have the depth and you have stuff like that. So sometimes you have to take some pains with some young guys going through. But, you know, there's definitely some really good football in the National District.
Philosophy wise, because Mason and I talk about this all the time. You know, we, you know, also coming from a program that didn't have the numbers that Westfield and Braddock and those schools have. Your best guys got to stay on the field.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
we're always saying that. We're always your best guy. And I'm not saying Ironman football, all 11 guys. That's not what I'm saying at all. But we always know who those guys are. You have those guys on the team. And in my opinion, you know, maybe outside of quarterback, even though you do see, like you said, you see some quarterbacks playing DB or corner, or I love the outside linebacker. You see that sometimes. But anywhere else, though, I think if he's a dude, he's got to be out in the field.
Yeah, and you know, it all depends on where you're at, right? Like this year with Mount Vernon, you have 20-something seniors. I don't know how many players are going to go both ways. You know, I don't think it'll be that many. Definitely not in the skill position area. Maybe in the offensive, defensive line, we might have to start a guy both ways. But so it's just one of those things as a coach, like you have to practice a certain way, and then you have to play another way. And sometimes, you know, you're only as good, like practice is really important. So people talk about games and things like that. Well, you have to give your team a look in practice, right? You can't just go Monday through Thursday thinking, oh, well, we're going against the JV kids or whatever. And you just walk out there on Friday night and Lake Braddock's in your face and you go, well, this is the play they ran, but this is not the way that our scout team ran it or something, right? So, you know, you definitely have to find ways to be competitive. And even if it's that taking a half of the half line or half field, or you work like half reads or something like that, you have to keep the intensity up in practice and the competition up in practice to make sure that you're ready to go on Friday night.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems is when you have a smaller squads and not necessarily depth, is you have no idea if the stuff you're doing is going to work until Friday night. Because you're going, man, if this is how easy it's going to be, but you know it's not. And so a lot of times you've got to have a backup plan, because you know what you do Monday through Thursday, you're like, man, this looks amazing. This is easy. We're gonna win 55-0. And then you're out there like, oh, maybe not. Maybe these kids are gonna put up, you know, a little more fight. But that's also why you kind of preach to your practicing. Look, if you don't give us a look during practice, you're going to kill us during the game.
Yeah.
Because you're not giving us a look because, you know, you're down because you're playing on the practice team or whatever, you know, and you're not giving full effort. The guy on Friday night is, and then we don't know what we're going to do, right? I mean, so that's something you run into, especially when you have smaller squads.
Yeah, and it's important to convince the young guys. Like, you know, we live in an age where everybody wants something quick, right? Like you want the instant gratification of being a varsity starter when you're freshman, sophomore, or you want to be there. But like sometimes you need to understand that in order to get for the team to be ready, you know, you need to go out there and put forth effort in practice. You know, you need to make sure that you are doing everything you can at practice to get the varsity ready for Friday night if you're a JV guy or whatnot. I do remember, I have a funny story. So we're getting ready for Westfield, and we beat Madison. It's set, you know, one of the greatest victories I've ever been a part of. Like we beat Madison, we're going to regional title game, we're getting ready for Westfield, and you know, we're running the ball, we're like getting yards and stuff like that, and I'm just like, this is not how it's going to be on Saturday. I just feel like, you know, these 3 yards, these 3 5, 6 yard runs are 1 yard runs. Yeah. You know, and we went out there, and that's why they had a great team. You know, Coach Simmons did a great job with that team. But, you know, I remember seeing those guys and just being like, Oh boy. I know our kids are practicing hard, but I know like when we go out here on Westfield on Saturday, we're not getting the 10-yard run here. We're gonna be 2nd and 8. A second at a 1st and 10.
Now, in terms of coaching, so and different philosophies on this. We talked to Doc. You mentioned it earlier, talking about all the different hats you got to wear as a head coach, and how little of it is coaching sometimes. And I remember talking to Doc and earlier in the offseason, and he made a joke about that. He said, "I don't even coach anymore." He's like, "I just do everything else." He's like, "I got someone running the offense, someone running the defense, and I try and kind of poke my head in there and see what's going on." Now, obviously, he's probably overstating that a little bit. Obviously, we know Doc and is always talking football and doing football stuff. But for you mentioned Coach Benavidez running the offense, right? Now, defensively, is that going to be you? Is it someone else, the DC? How are you handling that?
Right now, it's going to be me, and and if there's somebody that comes along, and I can work. I'm going to be working through my staff, right? Because you have to see the full picture. And special teams probably be myself, and then maybe we'll find somebody to work through as well. But when you hire coaches, you hire them to coach. So I'm meeting with my staff tomorrow, and my message to them is, hey, I hired you to do a job. Like, this is your job. You're the head coach of the wide receivers. You're the head coach of the offensive line. You're the head coach of the defensive line. And so when you're out there, you're talking to your players. In an ideal world, and when you go to college, I know this is the case, you're probably way closer to your position coach and your coordinator than you are your head coach. And it's one of those weird things, because now I'm feeling it as well. Like, I'm like, I kind of want to be, closer to players, but there's just so many things to do and so many things to keep an eye on. If there's an issue, you have to handle it. If there's an issue, you got to go off the field and you got to go talk to somebody about staying on the field longer, or where's the water at, or hey, do we do this right, or we do that? Whatever it is, like, you have to handle that. No one else is going to handle that. So it does lead itself, and I'm noticing it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't like it as much. I don't think anybody likes it. It's just taking you away from coaching football and putting you more in like I guess you call it a CEO or an administrator role. Which is okay, but we all get in this sport to coach football, and that's the most fun.
Yeah. So I have a coaching question now. I'm curious about this, just because of the situation you guys were in last year in the playoffs. So you spend Monday through Thursday night, Monday through Friday morning, getting ready for Braddock. Is that right? That's what you guys?
Well, Mount Vernon did. I was at, so we were getting ready for West Springfield. So yeah, but they were getting ready for Braddock. Yeah.
Yeah. So and who did you guys end up? Who did you guys end up playing in that first round?
So Edison ended up playing Hayfield the second time, and Mount Vernon ended up playing Lake Braddock. I think they were getting ready for somebody else. I think it was fair.
Who are you guys preparing for? Who you guys supposed to play West Springfield? No. Who? So did you have a Hayfield game plan in your back pocket the whole time, thinking to yourself like, or did you come on Friday night? You're like, well, time to come up with a brand new game plan that week. I know you'd seen them already, but I'm just curious how that all broke down.
Well, I mean, that was, last year was an interesting year.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of changes, a lot of things happened last second. But we were getting ready to, play West Springfield. We were going through our walkthrough, and then we got the news that we're going to be playing Hayfield. And so we had to transition. And, one of the things that was, interesting, difficult is, like going against that team, because that team was, as long as I've been coaching in 15 years, and Coach Overton did a great job with that team. That was the best team I've ever seen on the field. Like I've seen other teams that were really good. That Hayfield team was, not only were they athletic, not only were they good, when they had Juju and all the other different parts of that team. I mean, that was the best team I've ever seen in person. I've probably seen an ESPN game or something like that. Maybe a team was better. But getting ready to go versus those guys was definitely a challenge. And it was a challenge to get them, like, you got to talk to the players like, hey, we're going from one team and we're going to go play this other team. This is what we're going to go do. We're going to go play this game. We're going to give it our best shot. We're going to do what we do. And one of the things I'm, kind of proud of about Edison is we scored both times in those games. And that was not an easy task.
No, it wasn't. It was not.
It was not an easy task, and a lot of teams failed at scoring against those teams because they were really that good.
Yeah. So you see me a fan, and we talked a little bit off camera about it. You also said you saw that 2011 Westfield team, right? You.
I didn't see him. No,
Oh,
no, I didn't
okay.
see him.
Okay,
That was
I
down.
thought
That was
maybe, I
down
thought maybe you
Stafford
did.
at the time.
I was curious who you thought would win between those two teams, but
See, I never got ready for that 2000, so I never saw that team in person.
yeah,
I saw some really good when I was at Stafford. There were some really good teams. There were some Colonial Forge teams, and that's one of the schools you guys. I'm telling you, like we saw them in the 7-on-7 tournament. That is a heavy hitter school. You know, that is a school that D1, D1, D1. You know, it back to back to back to back. You know, and North Stafford's really good now. Like there's some really good football played in Stafford County. It's like not Nova, but it's kind of Nova.
yeah.
And
Trust me, we get
they're
teams like
good.
that all the time.
Yeah, no,
They are good. They are good. And you're right. It is that weird kind of Nova.
kind of Nova. I don't know, I don't know how far the podcast goes south, but I remember playing those teams, and we had some good teams at Stafford, and our record said one thing, but I'm telling you, the teams we were playing were good.
Yeah.
Well, our good friends at 540 Athletes and 540, that is the zip code, right? And we'll be getting our review, and they're excited to kind of break it down. But they're talking about they're saying it's gonna be another banner year in the Bender household for Colonial Forge and North Stafford. So kind of excited about that.
And we could go off. I mean, yeah, I'm sure we talk about, and I'm not gonna beat the dead horse over it again. But just Region B is such a bear because there's 80 teams in that region. To make the playoffs in Region B, you've got to be really, really good. Like there, and the 8 seed is as good as the 1 seed a lot of times.
Yeah, I like the setup right now for us up here.
One thing that we were wondering, I know we're going to cover Herndon and Lake Braddock. They got a strongman contest. A lot of people are kind of wrapping up some of these competitions, and they're getting ready to kind of do the thing. How about you guys? Are we kind of wrapping things up, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, we're wrapped up until the season starts. Because we had the dead period coming up, so the next 2 weeks we're not allowed to do anything with them. And then we have 3 weeks in July where we're getting ready for the season. We're putting things in for the first week because we kind of got an interesting start date where we're kind of starting a little bit later than some of the other teams in the state. So we've got to be ready to go in Fairfax County. All the Fairfax County public schools, things all start on August 4th, that Monday. So we basically have to be ready to play a game in 3 weeks. So we don't get some of the other schools. I'm speaking of Stafford schools. I think they're starting earlier, so they get a little bit of extra time. So we have to start getting into like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Starting working with our team to get ready for the season.
For summer camp, are you a morning guy or are you a afternoon guy?
Morning guy. Got to beat the heat. The afternoon heat, it just sticks around. It could be 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. You could still be not able to go outside.
And the thunderstorms. You got to beat the storms.
It's the rain in particular, right?
Yeah, I'm like a 7 a.m., get out there in the full pads. And then by the time that second practice, and we'll do a shorter second practice and probably with just helmets or maybe not even be able to do equipment some days. But I that was one thing that I learned from Coach Lewis. It was like 7 a.m. Get out there and get it done because you're gonna lose. And that's one of the things about being a coach. Now, okay, well we can't be outside. So what do we do? Where do we transition to? What drills do we run? Do we have space? And all those types of things. So getting done what you can get done, and we only got that 1 week. Speaking of things that we're facing a little bit of challenges here in Fairfax about it. We got 1 week of 2 days because teachers are back that second week, right? So not just me, but like everyone else has to then probably transition into the afternoon or find some sort of workaround where you can maybe go in the morning one day or not one day. But if you're assistant coaches and you are a teacher, you're back that second week. Yeah. So you only get 1 week this year.
My first OC job I had, the head coach, and man, he was a guy who loved to work. We didn't stop 2 days until we got to the season. So even when we went back to work, we were 5 a.m. to 7:30. And then when we went back and teaching. So even when when the kids were back in 5 to 7:30, taught, and then went from like 3:30 until 7. He did not want to start for 2 days at all. So we Yeah.
How'd the kids feel about that?
I mean, they didn't like it, but I mean, they had gotten used to it. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, the question is, were the results like?
Yeah.
Did he win? Did the coach win?
I mean, we did okay. We weren't world beaters, but no.
Because at the end of the day, you ask yourself, like, I'm just not talking about him, just in general, but like, you end up some team that does all that, puts in what you said that was 4 hours in the back end, 2 or 3 hours in the front end, 7 hours,
5 to 7:30,
5 to 7 hours a day,
3:30 to 6:30, 3 hour practice in the afternoon.
so like 5 or 6 hours a day for an entire month.
Yeah.
You better get some dividends out of that. You better show something, right?
Yeah. I mean, we were strong, but man, I remember just being exhausted. I mean, being exhausted the whole time.
Sometimes
Yeah.
Philosophically, like sometimes when you do those long practices, you just end up in a lot of stand around time, and so I do want to keep, my practice for like 2 hours because I want to move. I want us to get out there, do the things that we're going to do and move on. So, one of the things, athletes are a little different than they were back in the day. Like when I went to high school, the mom was dragging the kid to the football practice saying, you're going to play football and you're going to like it. And these days, kids have different options. And so when you start doing that kind of stuff, some kids will buy, it all depends on where you're at and what's going on. And you got to know your team and all that kind of stuff. But like, you're going to lose kids. Kids won't come out for the team. Kids won't be excited to be there, where you'll just end up sort of standing around for a half hour, not really running any plays, just kind of getting through the time.
I think you're 100% right. Mason, that's the Dash, Mesa, and Blevins freshman plan. I think, especially at freshman ball, man. Like, we're not trying to scare kids away, right? Especially at programs that have had a hard time attracting kids and stuff. We're trying to get kids in, and we're not trying to have these 3-hour sessions, at freshman.
Your freshman coach is the second most important coach. Von Lewis taught me that, and I got a great one, Chris Rossetti, and he does a great job. But the most important thing is keeping kids in the program.
He was at the 7-on-7, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a good dude.
He did our younger guys 7-on-7 with Jacob Hurt, one of the other assistant coaches, and but the most important thing is keeping kids in the program, keeping the kids interested in football. When I was coaching freshmen, it was John Pius, who's going into the National Football League, was the worst freshman football player on the team as a freshman. He was in Northern Virginia Defensive Player of the Year, as a senior. Maybe he wasn't the worst, but he got in like one play. Like I never played him either. Maybe I'm not a great coach, but I never put him in a game. He hadn't grown into his body yet. He had not grown. He was a year younger than everybody else. And now he's trying out for the National Football League, was an All-American, and William and Mary, went on to Wisconsin. Like if you think that the best freshman kid is going to be the best varsity kid, that's usually not the case. There's going to be some kid that comes in, works hard, grows into his body, fills out whatever it is. And that's going to be the guy your senior year. A lot of times, somebody you didn't even think of 4 years before.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, man, we're excited. We're excited to watch you guys, and look out for that email that's going to be coming out, right? With all of our questions and breakdowns and kind of reviews. And look, the National we were saying this the other day. National and Liberty are going to be kind of fun to watch because it's a lot of the conferences have 2-3 teams that are kind of vying for it. It could be an upset, but 2 or 3 teams are kind of the favorites. Whereas I feel like National and Liberty are kind of wide open. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and that's a fun thing. The fun thing is being able to compete against football. There's competitive, right? Like we all want to see competitive games. We want to see good matchups, competitive games. And I know in the National District, we're going to get that this year. You have to be on your P's and Q's. You have to make sure you're ready to go every night. And these things come in waves. When I was in the Liberty District with Yorktown, like the first time, it wasn't considered the strongest district. Now all of a sudden, here comes Wakefield, here comes Herndon, here comes Yorktown, here comes W&L, 12-0 going to regional title game. Like these things come in waves, and sort of like how this school rises up and this school falls back down a little bit. So, hopefully we get a good wave here in the National District, not just for Mount Vernon, but for all the teams.
Now, I got to ask you before we go. now you're kind of getting the lay of the land of the Mount Vernon community. And put you
Mhm.
on the spot here. Put you on the spot. What? And if there's more than one, you can say more than one. But is there a key spot that some of the coaches have been going to? You get a bite to eat, a good sandwich. Where are you, Roy Rogers? What are you guys doing?
I
What are
knew
you
you were
guys
gonna bring
doing?
up Roy Rogers.
Well, I'm
Jesus.
curious. I'm asking. I like a double R burger, but I'm asking. Where are you guys hitting up in the Mount Vernon community?
See, I don't know where this Roy Rogers hate is coming from. Like, I don't get where the Roy Rogers hate is coming.
Because he brings it up all the time. He
It's
brings it up
fantastic.
all the time.
It's a dying breed of of a restaurant chain. Okay.
Yeah, and my wife jokes, I've been hitting the Jimmy John's on the way home, on Route 1, and my wife jokes that if she didn't marry me, I'd be eating Jimmy John's for my entire life, and and I would never cook for myself. So that's definitely a place. I've heard the chalkboard is the go-to spot. We got to find that out here. One of the Friday night scouting reports is definitely finding a spot, to go to that's got a nice place to be at after a game. And there's definitely all sorts of good things up and down Route 1. That's something that I'm getting into. I'm not a connoisseur, but I'm working my way up to that level with the local restaurant scene. So I'll report back to you. Have me on a year or two, and you'll know the places that I've been to.
All right, hey, start talking to the staff, and then it'll be one of the questions on the questionnaire, Mason. Make sure we get that on for all the coaches, and put a couple spots on the list. We'll check them out. Chalkboard. I'm writing chalkboard down though. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, it's a little hole in the wall spot, and it's a good place to go after the games, is what they told me. But there's other spots I'm sure around there that I don't know about yet. But hey, I'm going to get on the scouting report. I'm going to try to figure it out.
All right, that's good stuff, Coach. Thanks a million for having us. Coming on here today and joining us. It was a great time. Again, it was awesome watching you guys play last week. It was a pleasant surprise. We went there going like, okay, there's Ty Jackson, there's Braddock, there's South Lakes, and then all of a sudden we're like, whoa, look at these guys, look at Mount Vernon. So it was fun watching you guys. Can't wait to see you guys this fall, buddy.
All right, thanks. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's awesome having you on.
All right, Coach. We'll talk soon. Take care. All right, welcome back. I like Coach Holland a lot, man. That's an engaging guy.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive. That guy's going places.
He is going places.
He's a mover and shaker. I think he bought stock in us early. I'm buying stock in him early.
I agree with you. I'm buying Coach Holland stock right now.
You're what's his name? Jim Cramer on Mad Money.
Well, you don't want to be Jim Cramer because whatever that guy says doesn't happen. But yeah, I think I like everything he said. I like what he's talking about. I like the team.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I think Mount Vernon's got something cooking over there. 25, 24, 25 seniors.
Wow.
Very
Wow.
few teams have that.
Yeah,
even
right.
even the big dogs, right? Even the Braddocks and the Westfields, they don't get. I mean, that's a big senior number.
That's a great senior number. I impressive stuff. I can't wait to watch them this year. We were looking at their schedule. They got what, Hayfield week 1?
Hayfield week 1.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, that's gonna be exciting.
That could be game of the week. I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, buddy, but that could be game of the week stuff right there.
You know what? I'm calling it right now. That is a game. That is a game of the week. That's making the top on
5
that week.
That's a top fiver.
Let's make a top fiver right there.
It has to be. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. That's a top fiver for sure. I'm excited about Hayfield versus Mount Vernon for sure. And that could be for, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, could be for national supremacy.
It's for sure gonna figure into playoff scenario 100%.
Yeah. Wow. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Man. A good interview. And speaking of, I didn't want to forget this because speaking of Mount Vernon, a couple of offers were made this past week. Matthew Moret.
Yep.
Emery and Henry.
Yeah. No, and that's a good school, and no, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I was very happy for him. There's a lot of guys, kind of
the Westfield kid who got the Syracuse offer.
Yeah, I'm actually bringing up. I had jotted some of these down, and I kind of wanted to bring some of this up. So PVI Miles Sanderson linebacker, Cornell University.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's impressive stuff,
Yeah, for sure.
right? I mean, both academically and just athletically. Just kind of looking at some of the and a lot of guys, going to camps, and I saw Davin Tolson from Fairfax doing a whole bunch of camps. I mean, that guy's an absolute. When a coach at another school in your conference, it was Coach Parker, West Springfield, says that dude is a stud right there. That's high praise.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's good they're supporting kids in the local area, though. That's always important.
We talked about Tristan Lux from St. James. He got a couple of offers right last week. I think we had mentioned that.
Yeah, we did on the live
in the live show. There was a big addition to St. James. Aaron Southard from St. John's.
Yeah.
That guy. Have you seen how big he is? He's 6'5", 300 pounds, and he's the class of 27. Mesa. Anthony Munoz.
Yes, he is.
You like the Munoz pool, don't you?
There you go. Yeah.
Peyton Holmes, offer from, I think we had said that. Aiden Pajonas from, is that Patriot? Got an offer from Ferrum. Ferrum, I'm going to say Ferrum, we were talking about Virginia guys, Virginia schools.
Yeah.
I'll say this. Ferrum has done an outstanding job. Every time I look at my timeline of NoVA guys, Ferrum's making an offer to somebody.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do, right? I mean,
they've been all over the place. We did not mention the receiver from St. James. Teasley, yeah, Josiah Teasley. He had committed right after we did the show. I want to UVA. UVA.
Good.
So we did the show, and I looked at my timeline, and I'm like, well, there you go. So from Westfield, Jason Ace Larty getting the Ferrum.
Okay.
That was one, and then I think there was at least two. I thought Malachi Lee from going to Syracuse offer.
And once again, Virginia Kid's first Power 5 offer from Virginia is not Virginia Tech. It's not JMU. It's not UVA. It's not ODU. It's
right.
Some school out of state.
And a good program out of state.
A Power 5.
Yeah.
Power 5 program. Virginia Kid's offer is not his home state school, which is criminal. It's criminal.
100%. Malachi Lee, absolute stud. Let's say a receiver, running back, safety, corner. Syracuse offer, but you're right. Where's ODU? ODU, come check out Malachi Lee.
Yeah, the fact that his first offer, Power 5 offer, is not for me. The four schools that are in the state that he lives in is.
Yeah, I agree with you. Westfield's got quite a few guys right now that are rocking and rolling with offers.
Yeah.
Wesley Flamer's getting a bunch of offers and a bunch of looks. Jermaine Webster. They got a bunch of dudes right now. I mean, right now you can kind of see we're talking earlier in the interview, talking about, how some of these conferences you can look at and see the 2 or 3 best teams. I mean, that showdown of Madison Westfield is looking like Terrence Crawford Canelo. You know what I mean? That's going to be
kudos,
something.
All right, Coach Foster, friend of the show. Kudos to him and congrats to him in his program.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Which, by the way, I am looking forward to that Crawford Canelo fight. It's going to be a hell of a fight, and that's in September. So we got an action-packed September, my friend.
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff going on in September for us.
Yeah. So you got to stay cool, buddy. Stay cool out there. Don't maybe wait till sundown to wash the car. You can't be out there in the middle of the day washing the car. That's tough stuff.
I get started early. I try to get out there by 8 a.m. to get
8 a.m. Wow, no sleep, huh? No sleep till Brooklyn.
I don't sleep very much lately. I wake up early.
Really?
Yeah, I don't sleep in very much.
Man, I'm a big sleep guy. I love sleep.
So do I, but I wake up and yeah.
Wow. Well, just be careful, and that goes to everyone else out there. You got 102 degree, 103 degree heat. That's before the heat index.
You're a PE guy. You're a PE guy. When it's hot out there, it's a red flag day, right?
Yeah, it's red day.
Red day for PE.
Blow the whistle, put a little zinc oxide on the nose, and you say, "You guys got to come inside. Got to come inside. We can't be out here." Yeah, the wet bulb. Got the wet bulb.
Oh, there's a lot of that going on out there, right?
There's a lot of wet bulbs out there right now. Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of cancellations of stuff this week.
Yeah. Oh,
A lot of cancellations.
I do summer PE, and I'm sure we're going to be canceling a lot of the workouts.
You got to cancel the online summer PE classes.
They have to do workouts in summer PE.
Got to cancel.
They're canceled. They have to do indoor workouts.
Indoor in their living room.
Good old yoga with
Adrian, baby. Yoga with Adrian.
There you go.
Just I used to do the yoga with Adrian. It's good stuff.
COVID, that was your thing.
That was my thing. I was very probably the most flexible I've ever been. Now I got backache. I didn't have a 2-year-old back then though.
Yeah.
You know. Well, buddy, I'm looking for we got a special one for next week, for the holiday week, don't we?
We do. We got something coming up. You've been touting this forever. So I'm gonna go and let you go and talk about what's going.
I'm gonna tease it. So next episode during the holiday, we know not everyone might catch it. People are on vacation and stuff, but we are going to. Our show will be dedicated to naming the top 10 teams in the last 25 years at NoVA. We've done the research. We've made the phone calls. We called people. We talked to people. We called the National Archives.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. You'll get the opinion of a guy who's been here for 5 years.
That's right.
Telling you people.
You know what? It's about doing the research. Doesn't matter where you're from. You think archaeologists were born in 1,000 years ago? No, they did the research.
We're the Indiana Jones of this right now.
Yes, we're doing the heavy lifting and the phone calls. National Archives, man. If you do the National Archives, that means you've done your heavy lifting.
There you go.
So I don't even know what the National Archives are, but I just like saying that. But we have been doing some research. We have. And we are looking at stuff, and it's going to be kind of a little controversial, but that's part of the fun. We want people to kind of be like, no, we don't think that team, it should be this team, or this team should be that team, and kind of have fun with it a little bit. It's all in good fun. Nothing's meant to be serious. And it's the holiday week, right? Do a little top 10 list for the holiday week. It'll be a short show, maybe half an hour show dedicated to the top 10 teams in NoVA over the last 25 years.
Good old late show with David Letterman top 10, huh?
Yeah, that's right. We'll do a little drum roll. Well, folks, it's been a fun one. I hope everyone enjoyed that awesome interview. We'll look out for Mount Vernon this year. You and I both agree on that one.
100%.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next time on All Hitches.
Yeah.